Chapter 22. I gasped when I saw the clouds passing near us. The ground remained firm beneath my feet, but entirely transparent, and I tiptoed after him, my jaw dropping. How far did we climb? Are we still in Arcadia? Below us, I could see the snow drifting over the campus. We were above the clouds, and the heavy flakes didn't land on us. I lifted my face and could see directly into the heavens. Stars twinkled in the firmaments. Planets glowed in the distance, large and round.
Yes, there are still some things I don't understand, and the tower is one of them. It's almost like magic.
But we know magic isn't real, I scoffed.
Yet everything we do now at the Academy, when I was a mortal, I would have called magic.
We're still learning, I said, catching on to what he said. I placed my hands on the railing and looked over the edge. From here, I could see the tops of the campus buildings. They appeared far away, but when I looked down on them, suddenly they zoomed in, details becoming clearer. Are all viewings done from the tower?
Viewings can be done from wherever you choose to be. First years don't know how to open windows, so Elder Master Brachial opens one for them. I can create my own. I prefer to be here.
His voice became softer, reverent almost, as he looked up into the starry sky. Something warm crept up my chest and into my neck, all the way to my cheeks. This was his special place, and he'd brought me here. How do you do it? I asked. How do you view Earth?
First, you have to think about who you want to see. Make sure your why is pure, that your intent is for their benefit. Then, you use your energy to open a window, like peeking into a house to see that person.
He held his hands out, and his fingers glowed orange as his life force gathered at the tips. Then he spun them and spread them apart, and a sphere appeared between them, small, with turquoise rays shooting out of the edges. He pulled his hands apart, and it widened until the sphere opened like a round doorway. It paused directly in front of us, big enough for one of us to step through. An earth home appeared, a kitchen with wood cabinets and a refrigerator covered with magnets. Is it a portal? I asked. Can you step through?
No. Windows are similar to portals, but you need to synergize to create a portal, unless you have an assignment. We can't descend until we become a Git.
Is this your house?
My dad's house. My parents are divorced. I lived with my mom, but right now, I want to see my dad.
How does the window know to open here? Malik chuckled.
I control where the window opens.
So many questions whirled through my mind. But before I could ask, a man stepped into the kitchen. He had a small phone pressed to his ear, and he argued with someone on the phone. My stomach clenched in recognition when I saw him, and a cold feeling of dread washed over me. This could not be Malik's father. Please, no, not this man. Who's that? I whispered, not able to raise my voice any louder.
That's my dad. He's probably talking to my mom.
He rolled his eyes, but there was no anger or even annoyance in his tone. I closed my eyes, clutching the railing as the world spun around me. The heat of shame and regret rushed up my neck, and I took a step back, afraid Malik would read the emotions in my aura. That man was Malik's father. The human soul I had tormented as a shadow, fed off for years, led into iniquity and destruction. The man I had ensnared with guile, sated with lies, and torn from his family. He was Malik's father.
Oh,
Malik exclaimed.
They had the baby.
I didn't want to look. A terrible dread had seized me, and bile burned my throat. I needed to get away, before Malik discovered the part I'd played in his life. But the baby cried, and my eyes opened of their own accord. A beautiful dark-haired woman had come into the room, carrying a baby on her hip. "Elias, get off the phone," the woman said snappishly. "I need help with dinner, and the baby's hungry." He held up a hand, silencing her, and continued the barrage into the phone. The woman huffed and put the baby into a swing tucked in the corner. Immediately, the infant began to cry, but the woman said a few dials. The swing began to move, and she walked away from the baby. "Who are they?" I asked, wishing I could run from the scene, wishing I could undo the past 10 years.
"My dad's girlfriend and their new baby. Rosanna was pregnant the last time I saw her."
The woman pounded away in the kitchen, rattling cupboards and plates while she searched for utensils to begin the meal. Malik's father left, only to return without the phone just as she dumped the vegetables into the frying pan. "This is how they are spending Christmas?" I asked. "Wouldn't you rather watch your mother?" Please, I thought. As a shadow, the people around my victim had never been anything more than fuzzy shades, but I remembered the feeling of light that radiated off his mother had been so strong. Just her presence had often been enough to drive me away. But sometimes the man's darkness had overridden her light, and that was when I fed the most.
"I know how my mom is,"
Malik said.
"It's my father I worry about."
He kept his eyes trained on the scene, and I forced myself to look back. This was my doing. This man's isolation from his family. I should face it. Rosanna started yelling at Elias when he returned, but he ignored her. Instead, he opened the fridge and hunted around. I sensed Malik tense beside me.
"Here."
Elias set a can of soda on the counter.
"You finish making dinner and I'll do the laundry. Does that help?"
Malik drew in a breath and exhaled.
"A soda. He was looking for a soda."
He laughed out loud. "You thought he was looking for—" My voice trailed off. I knew what he'd feared, but if I said it out loud, he might guess I had more knowledge than I should about his father.
"A beer or whiskey or something. My dad's an alcoholic,"
Malik said, his eyes bright.
"He was never sober. For 8 years, my mom put up with him and his abuse."
"Then what happened?" I whispered.
"She left him. He's had a bunch of girlfriends since then, but this one I think might last. I check on them every year."
"Only once a year?"
"Yeah. If I check too often, I don't see enough change, and that's discouraging. But just now, they were fighting, and my dad didn't grab a beer. And he didn't yell at her or hit her."
My eyes turned back to the open window before us, where Malik's dad shuffled clothing from the washing machine into the dryer. It had been years since I'd goaded this man to sin. He'd become less accessible, and I'd moved on to easier targets. My shame burned me. What changed?
"I think losing me was a big part of it."
I swiveled to face him, my heart feeling twice its normal size. I would have been there, a shadow haunting his family when he died. "How did his behavior affect you?"
"The way it affects most kids. I was angry and rude and obnoxious, and I drank a lot too."
I didn't want to hear this. I didn't want to think I had any cause in Malik's life being unhappy. But Malik couldn't seem to stop talking now that he'd started.
"You heard how I died. A swimming accident?"
I nodded, my eyes glued to his face.
"I didn't go into detail in the group."
He looked away from the window and met my gaze.
"But the accident was my fault. We'd been drinking. I was drunk. I brought the alcohol. When my friend fell in, I went in after him, which was stupid. If I'd been sober, maybe I could have saved him. But instead, I killed us both."
My throat ached with unshed emotion, but he remained stoic, so I forced myself to be as well. "I thought you would have been like Iblis, someone who went to church every Sunday and believed in—" My voice caught. I still couldn't say the word.
"Oh, I believed in God. I hated him. I was so angry for what he'd done to my family."
"But he didn't do it." I whispered the words out, almost against my will.
"I know that now."
My mind whirled, trying to digest this new information. "And they let you into the academy?"
"Everyone gets in, Jez. We're still learning. Once we're here, we decide if we're staying or going."
"And you decided to stay," I breathed. It seemed unreal that someone with that venomous attitude would want to be here.
"I almost didn't. I almost decided I'd rather have my hatred and my anger than trust a God who let such wicked things happen."
I clutched the railing. You almost became a fallen?
Almost.
A small smile graced his lips.
But the masters here, they don't want us to fall, especially Brachial. He convinced me to stay, and try again, and again, and again, and again.
Try what?
To change, to believe.
He put his hand next to mine on the railing, like he'd done at the game, close enough that the energy of our souls sizzled between us.
I repeated year 1 3 times before moving on to year 2.
So you've been here for 4 years?
Yep.
And here I'd thought he was class leader because he'd been so perfect on Earth, because he'd been the perfect example.
Do you despise me now?
He said, his voice teasing.
Because I'm not the guy you thought I was?
I shook my head, still trying to understand. They gave you so many chances.
As many as I wanted, Jez.
I lifted my face when he said my name, his eyes peering into mine.
You get these chances also. If my soul could be redeemed, so can yours.
For a moment, I let myself hope. The idea that I could become someone as whole and good as Malik washed over me like warm sunshine. I inhaled it, held it close to my heart, and believed. And then I remembered. He did not know everything I'd done, the souls I'd destroyed, his own family that I'd destroyed. I was not like him, and I could never be. I am past redemption, I whispered, looking back into the darkness of space at the twinkling stars.
Nobody is, Jez.
You wouldn't say that, I said, my voice trembling. If you knew what I've done, what I was. He bent his head closer to mine, his aura expanding, reaching out as if to envelop me.
I accept you.
I took a step back, away from his energy field. I didn't argue with him, because I couldn't tell him. I checked the message on my screen for the 3rd time. Meet at the armory after lunch, I'd said to Benemone. Okay, she'd replied. I allowed myself a small moment of satisfaction that my writing had improved so much, but now I sat on my bed in my dorm, alone, because Iblis had decided Jeremiel needed to be more social, and she'd made him go on a walk with her. Benemone should be at the armory now. Master Ingram should be unlocking the doors now. It shouldn't be too much longer. My pulse thumped in my throat. Soon, I'd fulfill my mission. My screen dinged with an incoming message. Waiting for you, Benemone said. Coming, I said. Warm up without me. Still, I sat. I picked up a book and tried to sound out letters, but the words danced around on the page, elusive. I couldn't concentrate and put the book aside. 15 minutes, 20. Benemone texted again. Still coming? I exhaled. Sorry, I said. Something came up and I'm late. Don't wait, I'll practice by myself. She didn't respond, and I stood slowly, giving her time to put away her weapons and leave the armory. She'd reserved it for an hour, but only 40 minutes had passed. I shouldered my bag and left the dorm, doing mental calculations as I went. Master Ingram would come by and lock the door. I needed to be in and out before that happened. Then I would pretend like I'd never made it there at all, and nobody would be the wiser. But I had to hurry. I had to time this window just right. Students milled about the quad and walked along the sidewalks. I didn't look at them and hoped they weren't looking at me as I walked into the Uriel Armory. I strode confidently down the hall to the weapons room, then glanced around, my hand on the door. Nobody in sight. Heart thumping in my ears, I pushed open the door and let out an exhale when it wasn't locked. I'd almost hoped. I shook it off. Time to act. I entered the weapons room and pulled up short when Benemone turned, her short, dark hair swishing with her head when she faced me. Hi, she said, flashing white teeth in a smile. Our hour is almost up, but we have a few minutes if you wanted to spar. She was still here. I stared at her in disbelief, my plan fading to ruins at my feet. I can't believe you waited, I said, trying to hide my distress. She shrugged. I didn't mind. It's a lot more fun to spar with someone else. Here. She tossed me a bow. We're not allowed to touch the daggers without a master present, but I'm getting pretty good with a bow staff. Thanks, I said, catching it. I cast a look of longing at the daggers, but I couldn't do anything about it now. If I ran over and grabbed one, she'd see me. All of the academy would know. I would just have to do it some other time. The second semester started without fanfare. The holy days were over, and every first year had assuaged some of their homesick feelings by having a viewing. Except me. And I wasn't homesick. But I got sick every time I thought of home. It was only a matter of time, I knew, before my father demanded my attention again. And I got nervous every time I thought of it. Why do we use a book instead of the screen when we practice? I asked Malik as we sat in the library together during the first week of classes. Is it easier to learn that way? He shrugged.
I don't know. I could probably teach you with the screen also, but there's something about real books, feeling the weight of the book in your hand, turning the pages. It's just me. Personal preference.
I looked down at the book open on the table in front of me, and suddenly it had greater value.
You're doing so well with reading and writing, he said. Soon you won't need me anymore.
I lifted my face, taking in his features, the light that seemed to constantly glow around him. That's not true. He smiled.
I mean, my teaching skills.
I didn't like the thought of not having these sessions. What would I do without his steadying presence, his quiet confidence? He saw something in me, something good. He believed in me. He believed a lie. I looked away, turning my attention back to the book.
You all right, Jess?
I lifted my eyes without moving my face. Yes. He tilted his head.
You seem nervous.
I dropped my gaze. I'm fine. He was quiet a moment, and then he said,
There was a time I was really good at putting on a brave face, too. It seemed like the more something bothered me, the more I pretended like it didn't. And you seem like there's something really bothering you.
I met his eyes, and my ability to lie to him melted away. There is something, I said quietly, but I can't tell you.
Does it have to do with your past existence?
I nodded.
Listen to me, Jez.
He shifted in his seat, that earnest expression crossing his face.
You're different now. That girl from Sheol, that girl who arrived in Arcadia 4 months ago, she's not you. You don't have to hang on to the past.
I yearned to tell him, but as if sensing my desires, the chains around my arms tightened and grew hot, threatening to burn me, to expose me. I'm still bound, I said softly.
You can be free. It's a choice, Jez. Once you decide, you'll be set free.
Choice. I fought to keep the snarl from my voice. There is no choice. He sighed.
There's always a choice.
Maybe for people like you, I said. He fell silent, and I felt the painful sting of victory, but it didn't make me feel better.
Leandro,
Malik said quietly. I furrowed my brow, studying him. What?
Leandro was my Earth name,
Malik said.
That's who I was.
I caught my breath. Earth names were special. They were intimate in that they represented an existence the angels had left behind. There was no need to speak of them here. Leandro, I whispered, and a surge of energy leapt from me to him, a feeling of connection that hadn't been there before.
I made a lot of mistakes with that name, Malik said, but none of that matters. In Arcadia, I was given a new name. My first name and everything I did wrong as Leandro was put behind me.
Leandro, I said again, loving the feel of it on my tongue. He smiled.
It's a nice name, but now I am Malik. I'm different.
He leaned toward me.
Who are you?
He was asking for my name, my real name, just as he'd shared with me. But I couldn't share mine with him. I wasn't a new creature, and revealing my name would reveal who I really was. I stood up, pushing my chair back. You don't want to know, I said, and I fled the library. Chapter 23. Meet me at the skyball pitch during lunch. I reread Carubio's message 3 times as I hurried to creations class. We hadn't spoken since he'd told me about kissing, and I hadn't responded because I wasn't sure if I wanted to meet him. Something about him drew me toward him like a moth to the flame, or, in my case, like a forsaken to the darkness. He also brought out my predator instincts, awakening in me the desire to feed. And for some reason, these things made me wary of him. Today, Master Sabriel handed us large pots of beautiful colors and a paintbrush, and she told us to recreate our favorite view of the sky. "What are we painting on?" Dara asked, dipping her blue-handled brush into the yellow paint. Sabriel laughed, her face crinkling with delight. "Oh, yes, I always forget that first years expect a canvas of some kind. Just paint it directly on the sky, my angelings." The students looked at each other with wide eyes, but I had never painted anything before, so it didn't matter to me. "No need to clean your brush between colors either," Master Sabriel said. "You may begin." Paint my favorite view of the sky. A few months ago, it would have been blackness, the sky with no moon and no clouds, just a blanket of dark. But now, my thoughts flew to how the sky had looked when I stood on the tower beside Malik, feeling his spirit beside me, feeling his light and warmth igniting me with hope and longing. Such a bittersweet memory. I dipped my brush into the black paint and then waved it in front of me. Sure enough, the coloring stuck to the sky above me, immediately transforming the light blue into a night sky. I brushed more on and more, so it blotted out the light, and a feeling of such misery and sorrow filled me that I gasped out loud, forcing back a painful stinging in my eyes. Out. Out with the light. No, I thought. The light cannot be expelled. It's forever a part of me now. "Jez," Master Sabriel said, approaching behind me. "Remember where you are. Try to leave the past behind you." I didn't even turn to her. The angels all said this as if they thought it a simple task. I'm not done. I pictured again the planets and the space spread out in front of me, and Malik, as far as the eye could see. Inspired by the view, I dipped my brush into the white, so bright it almost glowed. I poked at my night sky, dabbing big dots and little pinpricks, trying to emulate the stars as I had seen them. Almost, but not quite. The stars held too still. They didn't flicker and burn as they had from the tower. I added a bit of yellow to some of them, but it still didn't give the effect I wanted. "Very nice, Jez. I'm impressed." Master Sabriel was back, and she paused behind me. "The stars in the firmament are beautiful indeed. I'm pleased they've made an impression on you." "But it's not quite right," I murmured, studying it. "They aren't alive like in the sky." "Then give them life, just like I've been teaching you since last semester." Use my soul energy to create. I closed my eyes and tried to drum it up, but this was different than using it to control the elements. I felt energy sparking in my soul, but it wouldn't pass from me to the painting. The sky remained dull and inanimate. "Like this." Sabriel summoned the energy into her fingers, where it glowed on her tips. I could do that. I concentrated and managed a handful of sparkling energy. "Now, give it life." I shook my head. I don't know how to make the energy pass from me to it. "You control the energy. Just send it." She pinched her fingers together and blew on them. The sparks flew from her hand into my night sky, and immediately the stars flickered to life. "Oh!" I cried, because the beauty enraptured me just as it had on the tower. It brought back the feelings Malik had awakened in me. I wanted to fall into their depths. I wanted to be near him again, just to feel of his soul. "Try it," she said. I pinched my fingers together and blew, but instead of scattering over my night sky, the energy fell from my fingers toward the ground. "It's all right," Master Sabriel smiled at me. "You're improving. Soon you'll be able to." She left me and I exhaled, staring at my scene. The fact that I'd created it at all left me bursting with happiness, until I remembered what else I'd learned up there on that tower. And if Malik knew, he would never speak to me again. I pulled out my book and opened Kerubiel's message. "Okay." While the rest of my dorm mates moved from creations class toward the cafeteria, I clutched my schedule to my chest and made my way to the skyball pitch. The towers of the opposing buildings faced each other, though all remained quiet, with no practice or game going on, as all sports ceased during the second semester, when the upper years went to Earth on assignment. I stood on the field and imagined what it would feel like to glide through the air, flapping those magnificent wings and throwing a ball around for sport.
"There you are."
I turned around as Kerubiel approached. His light hair was shoved out of his face, and the darkness framed him like a shadow he carried around. I took a step toward him, reaching out as if I could gather his shadow into myself. His eyes darted to my hands, and he reached out also. I yanked back, catching myself before I gave in to the magnetism.
"What's wrong?"
he asked, tilting his head. "I can't touch you," I said.
"You keep saying that. Why don't you try it?"
I shook my head. "I can't."
"There's a lot you're missing out on."
He stepped close to me, so close that I took a stumbling step backward. My heart rattled at his nearness. "Can you harness your energy for creation?" His eyes glinted.
"I can create lots of things."
"Show me how. I can harness the energy, but I can't send it anywhere." His lip twisted.
"Watch this."
He cupped his hand and inhaled, closing his eyes. I studied his hand, and a moment later, the crackling energy I expected snapped in his palm. "Yes!" I looked at him and then summoned my own energy to my hand. "Now what?"
"Now, you tell it to do what you want. You're in charge. Do I have your permission?"
Permission? The word filled me with trepidation. The Forsaken could not influence mortal souls without their permission, which mortals were keen to give in many ways, through actions, feelings, and even words. I wouldn't give mine away so easily. Permission to do what?
"Permission to show you what I can do with my energy."
He kept his clear blue eyes on me, waiting for my answer. The darkness flickered around him, inviting me. It was comforting, somehow, soothing to the aches in my heart. "Yes," I said, making up my mind. A hint of a smile creased his lips. He bent his head near his hand and whispered,
"Enter."
The flickers lifted from his hand and flew into my body. I stiffened. A strange thickness filled my chest.
"Be still," Kerubiel said. "If you won't let me touch you, this is the best I can do. Close your eyes."
I stared at him, doubting him.
"Do it," he said. "I won't hurt you."
I felt compelled to do what he said. I closed my eyes. A sensation like tongues of fire crept up my soul, exploding from my stomach and caressing me with heat and pleasure. I gasped, and my eyes flew open, wide with astonishment. I'd never felt anything like that before. "How are you doing that?" I cried. He smirked.
"Imagine what I could do if I could touch you."
The pleasant feeling left me reeling. I closed my eyes, not wanting it to end, but recognizing the danger. I'd given my will over to him, and he could control me, just as a fallen controlled an underling on Earth. Except I hadn't let him drink from my soul. I didn't belong to him. "How did you know how to do that?" I whispered. This was knowledge of darkness. He had not learned it here.
"What's your real name?"
he asked. I peered at him through hooded lids. I wanted to feel his energy again. I wanted to feel that exquisite pleasure. "Do it again." He grinned.
"Tell me your name."
A tiny flicker of energy caressed my neck, teasing me, and I let out a breathy sigh.
"Do you like how this feels?"
he asked, curiosity tinging his voice. "I've never experienced this," I admitted.
"If you only knew, Jez. When two human bodies come together, touching, with nothing between them, it's the most marvelous feeling in the universe. It's paradise.
I believed him. This was desire? No wonder humans fell so easily. I didn't even have the weaknesses of the flesh to tempt me, and I wanted to give in to this heady feeling.
Your name,
he said. Jez, I breathed. Jezbathaset.
Jezbathaset,
he whispered, and I felt a sliver of my soul leak away from me, feeding into his energy. My eyes snapped open, and the hazy fog enveloping my mind vanished. I straightened up, eyes widening. You tricked me! He held out his hands, taking a few steps back.
No, I didn't. I did exactly what you wanted me to.
He'd manipulated me, and I'd fallen for it. Me! What are you going to do with my name? I demanded. What would he want with that information? Names were valuable. They had power. That was why Malik sharing his with me had been special, intimate, and why I hadn't shared mine. A fallen could not control an underling without knowing its name. He studied me coolly.
I'm trying to figure you out.
And I played right into your trap, I breathed, furious with him, furious with myself.
It looked like you were enjoying it.
I trembled at my own weakness because I had enjoyed it. But now I felt used and tarnished and broken. How could you? Tears pricked my eyes.
Calm down, he said. It's not like I was trying to hurt you. You asked me to show you, so I did. I didn't do anything you didn't want.
His cold words rang with truth. I had brought this upon myself. I turned and marched from the field, suddenly glad I'd never had a body. What a terrible idea, giving such strong feelings to a human.
Jez,
Carubio called after me.
Come on.
I did not glance back. For the next few days, I tiptoed around my classmates on eggshells, expecting Carubio to blurt out my name at any moment or share my secret with the other students. Worse, I feared he would tell Malik. My skin prickled with fearful apprehension of what Malik would say if he knew. If there was any way for me to keep my identity a secret from him forever, I intended to find it. When Carubio did nothing, didn't even approach me or speak to me again, I slowly began to relax. Just when I thought everything would be fine, Hasitan's voice woke me in the night.
Come, Jezbathaset.
The voice echoed through my mind and around me in my bed, and I opened my eyes and sat up. Indignation burned through me, and I wanted to refuse him. But even as I was thinking it, my legs were swinging over the side of the bed, and I was exiting my room. I couldn't refuse. There was no choice. I belonged to him, and he commanded, and I obeyed. I had forgotten my jacket, but my chains burned as they pulled me toward the fountain, dragging me to Sheol. The frigid air vaporized around me, enshrouding me with a cloud of steam. The portal hissed in front of me, melting the ice in the water. There was no point resisting. Anger and resentment brewed within me, but I stepped through the portal. As soon as the blazing heat of Sheol blasted my skin, fear replaced my resentment. Shadows and darkness lurked just out of sight, and I remembered my task and my failure to complete it.
Daughter.
Hasitan's shadowy figure stepped in front of me.
You have the dagger?
The only correct answer was yes, but I didn't have it. No, but... My explanation was cut off by searing pain as the chains caught on fire, charring my skin as I screamed. My hands grabbed at them, desperate actions to remove the pain, and were rewarded with blistering burns across my palms. Abruptly, the burning stopped, and I doubled over, panting and trying to catch my breath.
Failure is not an option,
he growled.
Bring me the dagger.
I wheezed, unable to speak. I realized it wouldn't matter that I'd attempted to take the dagger. All that mattered was I hadn't succeeded.
How is your learning coming along?
I still couldn't answer. The pain was receding, but my mind screamed with the memory of it.
Can you read?
I forced my head to bob.
Good. You will be a valuable asset when you leave the academy.
Yay for me. I closed my eyes, wishing I could cease to exist. Maybe if I failed, Hasitan would kill me.
You will retrieve the dagger before 2 moons have passed,
he said, his voice booming with command. My body stiffened and my throat strained with words. I will retrieve it, I managed to gasp out. I knew without a doubt that I would do it. There was no other option.
I can't believe how quickly you've picked this up.
Malik beamed at me, the pride evident in his eyes as he closed the book I'd been reading from.
I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. It's a lot easier to learn in this realm than on Earth. But soon you'll be able to pick up material from any language and read it.
I offered a smile, though I felt uneasy inside. That's what Hasitan wanted, someone who could read. I wore a thick jacket, even inside the library. The marks from the burns had faded, but weren't gone. Not yet. Every time I moved, I received a visceral reminder of my father's command and what I'd promised to do. I hated this. Somewhere, my feelings had changed. I did not want to fool the angels at Arcadia. I didn't want to betray my dorm mates. I did not want to lie to Malik. You're a good teacher, I said.
Come on.
Malik put the book back on the shelf and returned to me.
Let's go for a walk.
Something bright and strong filled my heart when I stood next to him, pure and light, like the music when the angels sang. I compared it to the spark of energy Kerubiel had manipulated me with, and my face warmed with shame. How could I have taken pleasure in something so false? My thoughts must have shown on my face because Malik nudged me with his book.
What's on your mind?
I can't reveal, I said automatically, and he laughed.
I've told you just about everything about myself, he said, and yet you're still playing mysterious.
Because you are good, I said in all seriousness. My thoughts often revolve around who I was and what I did. He fell silent as we walked through the quad, stepping past other angels on their way to class or out for a stroll. He sat down on the edge of the fountain, and I joined him. The water remained off for the winter, and I touched the frozen surface. There was no visible sign of the portal I'd taken to Sheol just days before.
I don't think I knew you before,
he said.
I've searched my memory for any time I might have interacted with you in the first existence, and it comes up blank. Of course, I don't remember everything yet. Maybe it will come to me.
You didn't know me.
Are you sure? Do you remember?
Nobody knew me, I said.
Somebody had to know you.
I shook my head. Malik knew I was a Forsaken, one of the souls damned to live out his existence in Sheol, but he didn't understand everything about me. I wasn't there in the first existence.
Everyone was there.
I wasn't. I lifted my head, my heart pounding nervously in my throat. Was I sure about telling him? He cocked his head, his aura flashing a deep purple. Could he see mine? What did it say about me?
You can trust me,
he said, patting my finger with his book. I smiled slightly. That was how he'd taken to touching me. He carried his book under one arm when we were together and used it to nudge me or poke me. Somehow, it warmed my heart as if it were his own hand.
Well, if it isn't our little vixen Jez.
The shiver of warning crept down my spine even as I turned my head to see Kerubiel approaching. Something in Malik's expression hardened.
What are you doing here, Shade?
Kerubiel lifted his chin, smugness radiating off of him. He shoved his hands into his pockets.
You say that like it's an insult. Shades have a very powerful influence on other beings. Wouldn't you say so, Jez?
Chapter 24. I glared at him, face warming with embarrassment as I remembered our last encounter. Kerubiel's eyes looked at my hand, pressed nearly against Malik's, and then he smirked at Malik.
But maybe you already know about the influence of shades.
No one's influencing anyone, I said, incensed by the insinuation.
Let it go, Jez,
Malik said.
He doesn't know anything. A lot,
Kerubiel said.
I know a lot. Don't be fooled by her innocent face. You don't know what she did with me on the skyball pitch.
I could not look at Malik as the heat rushed to my eyes. I clenched my fists, panic racing through my veins. Behind us, the ice cracked in the fountain, and Malik glanced at it. So did Kerubiel. Then he looked at me.
I'm still figuring you out. I don't have all the answers, but I'm close. Somehow, I suspect your name is a clue to it all. Jezbatha.
What? Malik said, his tone of voice changing.
What did you say?
I closed my eyes, fear flooding me. Kerubiel had just done it for me, revealed what I was, who I was. Kerubiel didn't miss the reaction.
That means something to you. What is it?
But Malik was looking at me.
Is that your name? You told him your name?
It just kind of slipped out, I said, helpless before him.
You could say she was caught up in the moment,
Kerubiel said, that smirk back on his face. Oh, how I wished I could smack him. He manipulated me. Malik stood up, and I watched him anxiously. Where are you going?
To see if what he's saying is true,
Malik replied, not even glancing at me. I stood as well. You could just ask me. Something darkened in his gaze.
Somehow, I doubt you would tell me the truth.
His response stung, and I stumbled backward. Just like that. And now he didn't trust me? Kerubiel regarded me as Malik walked away.
What does he know that I don't?
I spun on him. This is all your fault. He lifted an eyebrow.
No, it's not. You're keeping things from all of us, and that makes it your fault.
I glared at him, hating that he was right. I left Kerubiel at the fountain and ran back to the library, where I assumed Malik was, searching in the books for information about me. But I didn't find him, even as I ran among the shelves. So I sat down on the floor and removed my agenda. Where are you? Can we talk? I sent the message to him and held my breath, waiting for his response. When it came, it was harsh and loaded with emotion.
Now you want to talk? I've been trying for weeks to get you to open up. But apparently it wasn't that you didn't want to talk, just that you didn't want to talk to me. Maybe you should stick with those you're comfortable with.
It took me nearly 10 minutes to decipher the message, and each word felt like a slap to the face. He hadn't said it, but I could feel the words as if he had. Stick with your kind. He didn't tell me where he was, and I didn't ask again. I comforted myself with what he'd told me before, that he was prone to anger and sometimes needed a moment to cool down. I'd give him time. Malik skipped meals, not joining Table D, and as one day turned into 2 and 2 turned into 3, I wondered how long it would take. Or maybe now that he discovered the truth about me, we were through talking. A coldness sank into my soul at the thought, and a sorrow I hadn't thought myself capable of accompanied me to each class and every activity.
Today, we are going to work with the elements to see which one you are most inclined to.
Elder Master Barakiel walked among us where we stood on the grassy lawn, each of us with our feet apart and palms facing the ground.
Did you go to the library and study the meaning behind the different elements?
He'd given us the assignment a week ago, but I did not. I had not returned to the library since I'd gone seeking Malik. I was afraid he'd be there, and I didn't want to intrude on his space. But it looked like I was in a minority. Most of my classmates nodded. Now I was at a disadvantage because they had studied the elements, and I had not.
Fantastic,
Barakiel said.
Make sure you have plenty of space around you. Let's start with drawing up your energy. Go ahead, pull it up from inside you. Let it flow to your fingertips.
I'd had practice with this now, both in this class and creations class. I closed my eyes and visualized my soul energy burning up into my fingers.
Now, we will cycle through the most common elements. There may be more than one that speaks to you, but there will be one you control the best. Let's start with the earth. This is the power to move mountains, to shake the ground,
to cause cities to be swallowed up, to create valleys and hills where before there were none. The ground trembled beneath my feet, and I opened my eyes to see the earth shooting upward, creating a mound in front of my face. I gasped and took a step backward. "Sorry," Arella said beside me, her face turning pink. "I didn't know that would happen." "You did that?" "I think so." She looked at her open palms. "I felt the energy leave me." I hadn't felt anything. My fingers still sparked with unspent force. Valleys and hills sprang up around me, and Leek was in the midst of creating a mountain.
Very good, very good. Those of you who were able to work with the ground, remember that power.
"Earthbender! I'm an earthbender!" someone shouted, and several angels laughed, apparently catching a reference I did not.
Remember, it might not be your only power. Now, put everything back the way it was.
This appeared to be much harder. I watched Arella scrunch up her face in concentration, moving her hands back and forth over the mound. She succeeded in getting it to fall back into the earth, but it looked as if a child had dug it up with a shovel and put it back. "Looks pretty good," I said, and she gave me a grateful smile. Barakiel chuckled, and I looked up to see crinkles around his eyes as he walked in front of us. A quick glance showed she wasn't the only one who had struggled to get the earth back down. Leek was shoving the mountain back into the crater he'd pulled it from.
From your research, what does it mean if an angel is prone to earth moving?
Barakiel asked. "It means they are more logically rooted," Iblis said, speaking up from somewhere to my left. "They tend to see things in black and white. There's no middle ground."
That's right. Consider how that applies to you if you found talent in the earth. The next element we are going to try is wind. Remember to give this a shot, even if you were able to manipulate the earth. You might be able to do both.
He held his hands out in front of him so the palms faced each other.
Just like you channeled your energy before, do it again. Only this time, push it between your hands.
I held out my hands the way he did and summoned my energy, hoping this time something would happen. The flickering sparks collected in both of my fingertips, and then they pushed against each other with a magnetic force that shoved me backward. I gasped and crouched to the ground before I rocketed into another angel. Wind whipped around me and tumbled through my hair like a miniature tornado. I glanced around and saw other students using their hands to manipulate the shape of the wind.
Good job,
Barakiel said, approaching me.
You found a power over an element.
I'm surprised, I admitted, my voice a little shaky.
Why should you be? Your soul is composed of energy like any other living creature. You've just never learned how to harness it correctly.
Correctly being the operative word, because I had certainly learned how to use the energy of my soul for other purposes. I got to my feet and took a look around me. The angels who were not manipulating the air looked frustrated or disappointed, including Arella, whose lower lip poked out in a pout.
You are all doing amazing,
Barakiel said.
Who knows what traits are found in the wind manipulators?
Iblis spoke again. Loyalty, unwavering, someone who is not easily tossed about on the waves.
Indeed,
Barakiel said. I leaned forward and peered at Iblis, curious. What element had she managed to summon?
If you do not react to any of the elements today, please do not be alarmed,
Barakiel said.
There are other, lesser-known elements that we won't go through right now, but I invite you to come and speak with me after class so we can find yours. You also might just need a little more time, and there's no harm in that either.
Anticipation rushed through my veins as I stood with my palms open at my side, anxious to see if I would be able to summon any other.
The last one we will try is fire. This one might seem unusual because we don't always see fire in the world around us. But it is a natural element created from retrieving and combining multiple elements found in the air, such as during a thunderstorm, and in the ground, such as lava melting up from the Earth's core. So, to manipulate fire, you do have to be capable of either air manipulation or ground manipulation. Unlike the other elements, fire changes the composition of objects in a way that can't be replaced. So take caution when attempting this manipulation. Find a focus, something in nature that you can attempt to catch on fire. The grass at your feet, a nearby tree.
I focused on a tree just in my line of sight.
Got that? Good. That's the easy part. The hard part will come naturally to you or not at all. Close your eyes and use your energy to connect with the elements that would create a spark.
I did as he said, sucking in a breath and visualizing the electrons of the sky vibrating against each other, generating enough of a charge to create lightning. I could see them. With my eyes closed, I could see the molecules dancing in the air around me. My fingers twitched, calling them together. With a single force, I could get them to ignite. A yell rent the air, followed by a shriek and a scream. I opened my eyes, my concentration broken, to see a whirling fireball spinning in Israfil's face. It gathered energy like a vortex, sucking leaves off the branches of nearby trees and adding grass to his escalating appetite. For a moment, I froze, a tremor of fear ripping through me as I saw the fireball as if it were a reflection of a portal to hell. I reacted with one clear thought: put the fire out. I changed the way I'd been manipulating the molecules and spread my arms, hoping I'd rearrange the oxygen molecules enough to suffocate the fire. And then I lashed out, throwing my vacuum at the fireball. But instead of sucking the fuel from the fire, a spray of water erupted in front of me, shooting out of the ground and enveloping the fireball. The hosing continued, and my soul's energy grew brighter and stronger as it pulled additional molecules from the air and decimated the fireball. When only smoky plumes remained, I dropped my hands and took a step back, my heart pounding with weariness, coupled with relief. I looked around at my classmates, but none of them were looking at me. Their eyes were on the circle of burnt grass left behind by the fireball and the remains of the water as it seeped back into the earth.
"I'm sorry,"
Israfil said.
"I thought I had it under control, but it got away from me."
He spun toward me.
You used water." "Class dismissed,"
Barakiel said, so loudly and abruptly that it didn't feel natural. The students swung toward him, and then their gazes flickered to me, and I got the uneasy feeling I'd done something wrong. Iblis picked up her bag and handed mine to me also. "Let's go." Something felt off, and I couldn't quite tell what it was. But why? I accepted my bag from her, but took my time moseying from the field. I glanced back to see several students crowding around Barakiel. "Keep walking," Iblis said, moving at a quicker pace. I fell silent and followed her lead, though the nagging feeling in my gut told me this was about me. Iblis didn't say a word as we moved through the quad, past the fountain. I stared at its icy waters as we passed, as if it could somehow tell me what was going on. Even though she didn't speak, there was a certain urgency to the way Iblis moved. She bypassed the cafeteria and went straight to our dorm. I followed her in, and only after she closed the door did she spin around, arms crossing over her chest as she looked at me. "You're going to need to come up with some kind of story. If there's something you want to tell me, now would be a good time to do so." My heart gave a little pitter-patter of alarm. "What do you mean?" I said, suddenly finding it hard to swallow. "You controlled water," she said slowly, as if that should make it all clear. She stepped toward me, almost as if she would put her hands on my shoulders, and I flinched away. She stopped in front of me and sighed. Jez, I am your friend, and you can trust me. I'm going to stand by you, but it would be nice if I could trust you also. Now tell me, how did you do that? I shook my head, still not sure what I had done. I don't know what you mean. She pressed her lips together in a tight line. I did the studying. I read up on all of the elements. I still just looked at her, having no idea what she was trying to say. Do you really not know? I really don't know, I said, my tone dry. Angels have power over many things, the elements, emotions, light and dark. But over one thing they don't have power. Water. A chill tickled down my spine at her words. Who has power over water? I whispered, afraid to know. The demons. It is said to be a power of hell. Water is the devil's domain. I closed my eyes. And here, I had just used water in front of my entire class. It had come so naturally to me, I hadn't even stopped to think about it. I hadn't thought about it, and that was the problem. I should have questioned why it came so naturally to me. Now we'll have to think of something to tell everyone. I opened my eyes, staring at Iblis's face in disbelief. Otherwise, the rumor will go around that you're a demon, that you've escaped from hell and are here to infiltrate us. One eyebrow lifted. You've put a lot of thought into this rumor. It's not that big of a stretch. Why do you want to help me cover this up? I couldn't understand why she wasn't renouncing me and demanding a new roommate. She tilted her head and looked at me like I was daft. Because you're my friend, and I don't really care how you manipulated water. It doesn't change anything. But we do have to come up with a good story. I wanted to laugh. Then you believe I can manipulate water because I couldn't bring myself to say it. She just stared at me, as if waiting for me to sentence myself. I tapped my fingers against each other and cleared my throat. Have there ever been any other accounts of angels being able to manipulate water? I don't know, but I bet we could find out. Wait! She snapped her fingers, a look of wonder coming over her face. Yes, the firstborn could manipulate water. The favored one. Of course he could. He could manipulate everything, while Hasatan was given the unwanted element, more of a curse than a compensation prize. But the bitterness these thoughts usually dragged up remained at bay. Iblis, there is something you should know. Holding her gaze with mine, not taking my eyes from hers, I slid out of my sweater. Her eyes shot to my shoulders, probably seeking out my tiny wings. But I didn't stop there. I unbuttoned my shirt and pulled my arms free of it, revealing the chains that wound around and around my arms. Take a good look. I lifted my chin and stepped forward, leaving myself open for her scrutiny. Iblis looked uncertain for a moment, and then she stepped around me, behind me, and back to the front. You don't have any wings. No, I don't. Her eyes scanned the chains of my arms. What does it mean? Are you a fallen? What do you know about the fallen? She scooted past me and sat down in her chair, swiveling to face me. They came to Earth. Upon their deaths, they were judged unworthy to enter heaven and were stripped of their wings. Then they were sent to hell for eternal damnation. Some of them choose to go to hell instead of heaven. They want to be there. Yes, because living in heaven as an unholy being would be more torturous than living in hell. Where did you learn all this? I asked, curious in spite of myself. She gestured at the bookcase between our beds. Books, they're everywhere, and I can read faster than I ever could before. The knowledge just pours into me. I nodded, having experienced the same thing while learning to read. A spark of anticipation simmered in my belly. Soon, I'd be able to read as quickly and easily as Iblis, I hoped. So, she said, are you? I'd forgotten she'd asked me a question. I regarded her, wondering how much to reveal. The truth would not reassure her, and yet I found myself reluctant to continue lying to her.